Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Osborne joins us. He's the Storey County Manager, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome to Storey County, where history meets innovation, and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. But it's more than just growth. Our community is our foundation, supporting families, empowering local initiatives, and creating a place where everyone belongs. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Join us in building a brighter future right here in Storey County. Storey County, helping build Nevada's future.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Points are flying out the door during the Point Party Palooza giveaways going on now at the Carson Valley Inn. Up to 1 million points given away each drawing night. And over 1 million in points guaranteed during the grand prize point explosion. Get in on the action at the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Osborne. He is the Storey County Manager. Pleasure to have you back, sir.
Good morning, Sam. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about, for a long time, there was not necessarily pleasantries between Storey County, Washoe County, Reno Sparks. That seems to have changed a lot in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sam. It's really a nice, pleasant change in the environment we are. I think we work very closely with our Regional Transportation Commission, almost weekly or monthly at this point. We're discussing the Northeast Connector, we're discussing rail, discussing other potential projects that we can work on together. I think working with the government agencies is really a positive thing we're seeing today, but also the incorporation of our private industries in these conversations. Tesla and Panasonic, for example, have been fabulous partners working with us, RTC, Washoe County, all these different entities and agencies to try to participate and help and work collectively on trying to resolve some issues with transportation and housing.
And it's huge. I mean, anybody that's traveled on I-80 or going in and out of the park at the times when people are arriving or leaving, it's definitely an issue. We had a discussion, as I'm sure you're aware, on light rail. What are your thoughts on this at this point in time? Do you think that that's something that can become a reality here in the next few years?
We think it's important with light rail that it's investigated and looked into. There's some potential options there that it could be part of the overall transportation portfolio, just like your investments or just like even a grocery store. You want to have a variety of products. We got the I-80 widening project. You have the Northeast Connector. You got busing. You got van pools. You have other alternative routes, and then there's light rail. It's part of that picture, and I think there's opportunities with light rail that people don't think about. Where's that light rail going to go into? Where's at the other end of the pipe in Reno or Sparks? What's going to happen at the end of that? People say, oh, we'll build a parking lot and a park and ride. That's fine. But what about, a couple Hampton Inns that end up bringing in some commercial growth, that end up bringing in some apartments, that end up bringing in some homes and a movie theater. Other cities have hubs of commercial and residential activity along these rails, along these transit routes that are very successful and redevelop properties. The same thing can happen on the industrial center side. We're not allowed to have residential per se in the park, but we do have nearly 1,000 extended stay hotel and stays out there now that could be globbed around, a rail transit hub and do a similar type of thing even on our end of the track. So I think that's just the tip of the iceberg of opportunities that rail could provide the region. It isn't just rail itself and getting people from point A to point B.
Okay, so you bring up a really interesting point, because Brightline West, that's developing the line between Southern California and Las Vegas, bought 100 acres near Warm Springs. And that 100 acres is not just for the train station, but it's for all the economic development and entertainment district, hotels as you're describing. It's going to be a big deal, and they're doing the same thing in Florida. Can you envision something like that if you know that there's going to be a hub, that there are people that, would be interested in coming in?
I sure could, Sam. I think something like that is very possible. And I think, looking at rail, don't just think between Reno and Tri-Center along the I-80 corridor. What about potential rail between Tri-Center along the Northeast Connector route? What could that do in trying to bring not only residential growth into certain areas, but maybe commercial mixed use into areas that right now are kind of homogeneous. But think of that huge tract of land that's in between along that line that Sparks and Washoe County could develop into their own industrial center. They could have Tri-Center too. I think the possibilities are endless with that type of infrastructure growth.
Okay, so when you're talking about the Northeast Connector, that is literally from TRI into Sparks, and that is an area that really the mayor has been pushing for that to be developed. Mayor Sparks.
Correct, as a road project at this point.
But you could build the rail lines along that right of way, correct?
I think there's opportunity that could be explored with something like that, just to think outside the box on what might be working. We're thinking outside the box with the folks at Tesla and Panasonic about what's another element we could bring to that portfolio of transportation. And, it's really preliminary, but there's the potential for some announcements of some really exciting ideas that may be coming about kind of some hybrid systems that connect point A to point B in that area, mostly in Storey County on our side, that can be done through unique and private means that might get things done faster and quicker than would be otherwise available.
All right, so that brings me to, as you're talking about Tesla and Panasonic, Tesla, of course, is owned by the same company that owns the Boring Company, and they have tunnels in Las Vegas. They're looking at tunnels all over the place. They even had a description of a tunnel system going between Las Vegas and Reno. Any discussion about that occurring in Storey County?
I think their partners are all looking at that and seeing,
Really?
what might be available. Of course, I mean, you've seen there's a potential for tunnel type of activity. I don't know the details. I don't know if it's viable, but I think those things are being explored, and we're certainly talking about how could something like that work in our county. We've even talked about the Painted Rock development, that takes $70 million worth of infrastructure to connect to the interstate, because you got to build bridges over the river and over the railroad, over the TCID canal. Each of those are very expensive. But if you look at the mountain that's right behind Painted Rock, it's 1.5 miles right to the Gigafactory. They just maybe punch a hole right through that and maybe have a city attached to the Gigafactory that people could live in. Maybe that's good, maybe it isn't, but I think all these things are being explored as potentials.
And Painted Rock is what, 600 acres?
It's roughly about 1,900 acres.
1,900, okay,
Yeah.
much bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is going on there now? What kind of development are you seeing there at this point? Because it used to be alfalfa fields back in the day.
Yeah, there's a riparian area, and then there's kind of a hillside bluff area. Our master plan supports that being a residential mixed-use development. The current owners of the property, certainly you've seen, have had potential ideas, quite large dreams of building kind of a super city there. we're in full support of that, and it's aligned with our master plan.
Okay, and that would silence a lot of the discussion about Storey County doesn't want housing. I mean, literally you do.
We do in that area, and we recognize, though, to be realistic, that there's substantial infrastructure to get to that area, and a lot of folks have criticized it as being not a short-term solution, and we understand that. It is a long-term projection. Our county commissioners remaster planned about 2,500 acres in the Mark Twain area, which is along Highway 50 south of Tri-Center. That area could facilitate up to 10,000 homes. It's a relatively flat bluff. It's an area that's abutting already residential development and utilities. Not saying we could connect right into them. There's water and things that need to be found. But that area is master planned for potentially enough residential development to satisfy all of the worker needs at the industrial center now and into the foreseeable future. And it's master planned and ready today for anybody that wants to start exploring and building. And it's on the 50 corridor, removing everybody from all of these challenges we're talking about.
All right, so do you have developers at this point, housing developers looking at this?
At this time, there's some interested folks out there. I'm going to tell you there's nothing real serious going on. I think the whole region is experiencing that, and the whole nation is experiencing, with interest rates, the cost of construction, the cost of land, that housing right now is a hard thing to get off the ground in any place you are in the United States where there's any real activity going on. So we're in that boat too.
All right, so you've got some of the most creative minds on the planet sitting in Storey County that have been there, you know, for 20 plus years at this point. Actually, since what, 1978? 1998. What are the thoughts on that? I mean, in terms of being able to develop housing at an affordable cost, because that's been obviously the big problem. But are there any discussions where people are saying, okay, well, given this, we could do that?
Our commissioners and our team have really looked at that internally. You know, accessory dwelling units and things like that, you know, have really been kind of controversial in some jurisdictions trying to get them off the ground. And I think there was one jurisdiction there in 12 years trying to get something up and running. We were able to just do it, and it's done. So you can do accessory dwelling units in our community. You think of a laundry list of other deregulation that you can imagine in housing. Our commissioners have already done. We allow zero lot line residential growth, multifamily, single family, accessory dwellings, live-in work units. Pretty much everything you can imagine not only applies in Virginia City, where it historically came from. That's kind of was the base for our thinking for a lot of the zoning we have in our county, 19th century living. But you can apply that in Painted Rock and in Mark Twain. It's allowable in our regulations. So how that reduces costs, you know, one commissioner talks about a family can't afford to buy a $500,000 home where it might be a maximum of what they can afford, but they can afford to live in the accessory dwelling unit for maybe 10 years while they're helping get that mortgage down. When they get to that part of their life that they're a little more sophisticated in their careers, they move into the big house and then they rent out the small house. It's little things like that that helps bridge that gap between being able to attain a home and not being able to attain a home. In other words, let the government step out of the way and let these folks manage the property the way they think that should be managed, and they can use it for some side income that might be just enough to get them where they need to be.
Well, you know, you bring up a really good point, and one that I have thought about a lot and talked about quite a bit on this program over the last few years, which is, you know, the size of the average American home, the dream home, is so much bigger than it used to be. And that our expectations have grown to be, you know, so large that everybody wants a Rolls Royce. They're not prepared to start out with a Volkswagen bus, or Bug rather, to start out with. But isn't that the way it used to be? And that's the way, if we're going to get ourselves out of this crisis, exactly what you're describing is the way to do it.
Yeah, I do think our society needs a little bit of an adjustment in our standard of living on credit. I think we all agree with that.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back much more with Austin Osborne. He's the Storey County Manager after this timeout.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain, moving 95% of our freight in the Silver State. And while essential, the road isn't always smooth. Supply chain disruptions, rising fuel costs, and unrealistic rules and laws that hamper our ability to serve our customers and country. Our prosperity and every sector of the economy, manufacturing, mining, medicine, and food from farm to table, is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Austin Osborne. He is the Storey County Manager. By the way, we were talking about light rail and rail inside the park. You actually have 2 rail lines in there. And also, I was wondering, what have been what you can reveal at least, what have been the discussions with Union Pacific so far? Because they are a very big company, they are very good at negotiating, and they're tough.
They are. So there are kind of 2 parts to that. I think you're right. We are rail ready already. We have 9 miles of rail that noodles its way through the industrial park. It doesn't just connect it. And that's a huge benefit. I mean, that doesn't always exist in your environment. And it's owned by Tri-Center, so there's control over it. And there's property nearby that rail or even adjacent that's owned by the county. And so when you look at putting in multimodal hubs where a light rail would take you to point A and then you could just jump off and get onto 5 or 6 shuttles and get everybody to the last mile to their company, that's not super hard stuff to figure out. So we're set up for that. It couldn't be a better environment. Our master plan also says any future developments, major residential and commercial, have to have reserved space on those right-of-ways for future rail connection because we know one day there's going to be something like this. As far as UP, we have to be reminded it's their tracks. They put it in back in the days of the Golden Spike, and their principal function is to move freight across the country. And I'm sure a freight train versus a commuter rail train, if the two don't, they meet at the wrong time, it's not going to be a pretty picture. And they know it. And they have to deal with thousands of jurisdictions across their entire line. So I'm respectful to the fact that Union Pacific has responsibilities and needs and objectives they have to meet. It is their track. But also I'm optimistic that there has been some movement and some outreach and connection with UP about a potential sharing of the tracks. And there might be some ways to make that happen where through technology and other means to make it safe. I'm very optimistic that those conversations will continue and that UP is doing their very best to try to be accommodating.
Is there a lot of checkerboarding in Storey County because of UP?
There is some, yeah.
Because that's for people who don't understand. It's where the railroads were given a checkerboard land situation. The counties, I'm not sure whether there were counties there or not at the time, but the land was divided. So one side of the tracks would be, the local land, and the other side of the tracks would be the railroad. which was very beneficial back in the day, but makes it difficult for development these days. Tesla, of course, expanded with their electric trucks. Have you seen much of an expansion for the county connected to their expansion? Because I'm hearing that they're, wanting more space because of what they're doing.
Yeah, the Tesla Gigafactories have been a perfect example of success. They built their truck factory, and we had very little trouble working with them. Just a very smooth process getting that thing up and running. And we're hearing some pretty exciting numbers that might be coming out of that, as well as what we're already seeing going over the hill, over the Sierra. We're seeing those electric trucks driving back and forth to Fremont, and I understand they're going 60 miles an hour with a full load behind them and blowing everybody out of the water, the old diesel trucks. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes, to say the least. One more thing here I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about, the cost of doing things, because you're trying to, you've been getting revenue in now because, some of the abatements have passed. And there are people that think, oh, well, Storey County is going to be the richest place on the planet because of this. But the realities is somewhat different. For example, some of the projects that you're working on, while the revenue has increased, about 26%, the cost of the improvements has gone up. I saw this number from Northern Nevada Business Weekly from a great article by Jessica Garcia. She said that the expenses went up by 184%. Is that right?
Well, so there's two parts to this, where your revenue comes from. We're a very property tax dependent county. There's very little sales tax, very little commercial activity. That all happens at the other end of the highway in our neighboring counties where people live. The assessed valuation of their homes and the commercial places that they use brings in revenue to the region, where they buy their cars and washing machines and go to the movies and dinner. That's all generated locally where people live. On our side, yes, we're doing well. We have some tax revenue coming in. But people don't realize, like that Tesla revenue that came in increased our payback to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. We owe roughly $20 million back right now on all the roads and infrastructure that are out there. And that's a number that you can get a grasp on. But the trouble is the development agreement handbook says that we are responsible. It's a contract, it's not a handbook. We're responsible for $80 million more, $80 more of infrastructure that's coming out of the park. So that means when a company builds wherever, the master plan says the road connecting up to their company, if it meets that master plan criteria, we have to not only maintain it, but we have to buy it back. It goes into a payback system. And that payback increases or decreases depending on the revenue that we're receiving from the park. So immediately, no matter what we earn from the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, there is a mortgage that has to be paid, and it's kind of an adjusted mortgage that can fluctuate, and we have to try to project for that. Where that other cost you're talking about is the infrastructure. On the other end of the county, we are still drinking water from a system that was built right after the Civil War. That hasn't changed. And so we have to put money into our capital improvements, whether it's roads, water and sewer, and drainages are a huge problem in our county, the whole mountain. It's all a mountainous community. That's where all of our money is going. And there's easily $600 million worth of improvements that are needed for that. And there's easily $100 million that are needed in the urgency or in the immediate time. And we're down to, even that. We have to build a new courthouse. It's a $65 million project, a new jail.
Well, hang on. We're at $765 million at this point. So let's take a break. We'll come right back after we wipe our foreheads. That's a lot of money. We'll be right back.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org. Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
The new year is bringing new ways to win big during the $175,000 Winter Wonderland giveaways at Tamarack Casino. Win up to $5,000 in cash every week and a top prize of $20,000 in cash during the grand finale drawing. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
It happens. And when it does, there's UMC Quick Care.
You're in trouble with the law. It's easy to think you'll lose everything, but there is hope. I'm Attorney Orrin Johnson. Your first step is to hire a serious attorney with the experience to successfully navigate the legal system for you.
Sometimes hope means addiction treatment instead of jail, and making sure you're treated fairly.
Sometimes hope means fearless trial attorneys will stand up to the government when they get it wrong. Call or text Orrin Johnson Law.
We'll make a plan.
You'll take back your life.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Austin Osborne. He is the Storey County Manager. I always like to point out that Storey County has been a huge supporter of Nevada Newsmakers for the entire time it's been on the air. You're looking for revenues coming from federal funding, and you've been working with representatives in Washington, D.C. Because of the county courthouse and the needs there. How is that going?
So far, our relationship, we are so grateful for our relationship with Senator Cortez Masto and Rosen and Congressman Amodei. All three of them have been very generous and hardworking for our county. So we're very optimistic we're going to be able to get substantial federal money, and actually already have gotten substantial federal money for the courthouse project and for some of these other infrastructure projects.
All right, that's where we got to leave it for today, but obviously lots more going on. You let out a whole bunch of things that are just around the corner, so come back soon, will you?
My pleasure.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Mom! It happens. And when it does, there's UMC Quick Care.
Check out our archives section on NevadaNewsmakers.com. Great interviews going back as far as 2002. Really worth watching. We'll see you on the next podcast.